This video is all about releasing the identity without rejecting your past and why compassion is the missing piece in real transformation. So let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever tried to move on from an old version of yourself by judging her, criticizing her, or trying to outgrow her as fast as possible? Have you ever thought, I should be past this by now? Why am I still reacting like this? I hate that I used to be like that. If so, this episode might be the most important one you listen to, because you cannot shame yourself into transformation, and you cannot reject your past self, and expect your body to feel safe becoming someone new. Real change doesn't come from disowning who you were. It comes from releasing her with respect. And until you do that, you'll keep dragging pieces of her into your future. Not because you want to, but because she's still fighting to be acknowledged. So today, we're talking about how to let go without self-betrayal, without bypassing, and without turning your healing journey into another place you abandon yourself. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry. I'm a spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy alchemist. And I work with people who are done trying to fix themselves and are ready to actually integrate who they've been. People who don't need more awareness. They need safety, compassion, and structure to step into a new identity without collapsing under guilt or shame. This episode is part 3 of a 4-part January series on grieving who you were, so you can make space for who you're becoming. And this is where the real release happens. Not through effort, not through force, but through understanding. So why does rejection keep the old identity alive? Here's the truth most people miss. When you criticize your old self, your nervous system hears danger. It doesn't hear, I'm evolving. It hears, if I get this wrong again, I'll be rejected. And that immediately creates contraction. So even when you consciously want to move forward, your body keeps looping old patterns because it's trying to protect you from shame. This is why people say things like, I don't recognize myself anymore. I feel disconnected. I feel like I'm losing myself. They're not losing themselves. They're not rejecting parts of themselves in the name of growth. And the body will not cooperate with that. So let's be clear. Your old identity wasn't a mistake. It was a response to your environment, a response to what was expected of you, a response to what kept you safe, loved and included. You don't heal by pretending that never mattered. You heal by acknowledging this version of me existed for a reason. Until that's honored, she won't let go of the wheel. The difference between release and rejection, well, rejection says, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be like that anymore. Release says, I understand why I was like that, and I choose differently now. One creates an inner war. The other creates integration. And integration is what allows the nervous system to stop resurrecting old identities under stress. This is the part of healing that doesn't look dramatic. It looks gentle sometimes, slow, sometimes even boring. And that's exactly why it works. So here's a somatic practice for separating identity from worth. Make sure you're sitting comfortably. Place one hand on your heart and say slowly, my worth was never dependent on my coping strategies. Then say, I can honor who I was without living as her anymore. Notice what softens. That softening, that's release. Why people pleasers struggle here the most. So people pleasers don't just change behaviors. They lose belonging contracts. The old identity was, I am loved when I'm useful. I'm safe when I'm agreeable. I am chosen when I don't cause waves. Letting go of that identity can feel like a social death. So of course there's resistance. Of course there's grief. And of course there is fear. You're not just releasing habits. You're releasing who you believed you had to be to deserve connection. That deserves reverence, not judgment. So the ceremony of letting go, well, in old cultures, identity transitions were marked. They were rites, witnessed, timed. We don't have that anymore. So people expect themselves to just change and move on like nothing mattered. But your body knows better than that. It needs a moment of closure. So whether you're standing or sitting watching this, I want you to cross your arms gently over your chest and say, I acknowledge the role I played to survive. Then continue with saying, I release this role with gratitude. Then uncross your arms slowly. Let your hands rest on your thighs. This tells the nervous system the chapter is complete, and completion is safety. So let's move on to why compassion is not optional. Here's the part that will either land or trigger the hell out of you. If you are harsh with yourself, you are not disciplined. You are dysregulated. Self-criticism doesn't create change. It creates compliance, followed by collapse. Compassion creates capacity, and capacity is what allows a new identity to actually take root. This is not about being soft. It's about being effective. So what is it about living without the old costume? You don't need to announce your new identity. You don't need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to perform confidence. You just need to stop punishing yourself for not being who you were. When you do that, your system finally exhales. And that exhale, that's where embodiment begins. As I close this video, I want to ground this. This episode was part 3 of a 4-part January series on grief, identity and becoming. In part 1, we named the grief. In part 2, we explored the nervous system. And in this part, we learned how to release an identity without rejecting the past. In part 4, we're bringing it all home together. We'll talk about embodiment, how to live as a new version of you, without force, without pressure, and without dragging old roles into your future. So make sure you follow or subscribe so that you don't miss this final part of this series. And if you're realizing that your grief is tied to your boundaries, self-worth, or long-standing people-pleasing patterns, this is exactly the work I do. And I have 3 freebies in the description box below for you to go through and start that journey of building those boundaries. Not to change who you are, but to help you finally live as her. So I'll see you in part 4. Bye for now.